I must just ask you, before we talk about Prince Harry, and there's something he said in Spare, which is set the cat among the pigeons, just in terms of Jeremy Clarkson, what he wrote about Meghan just before Christmas. He's apologised on Twitter. He's done a second apology. He apparently sent an email to Harry. Meghan and Harry have issued a statement via their spokesman, basically, I mean, an apology wasn't good enough, and he's a problem, and everything he's ever written is probably a problem. What do you make of A, what he wrote, B, his apology, and C, the refusal of the Sussexes to accept his apology?
Well, I had never watched Game of Thrones, and I was absolutely horrified by what he said about Meghan. I thought it was just coming from him. He said about the excrement, I just couldn't believe it.
Well, I didn't get the reference. I was quite shocked by it, but he was trying to just make a point. I mean, he probably regrets writing it genuinely.
Well, he has. He's apologised 3 times.
Yeah.
And he's apologised very nicely and with humility, which is quite important.
And he hasn't waited until the outcry. I mean, he did apologise in private, we understand, by email on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day,
a few weeks ago now.
Yes. But I think that what they've done by coming back with a very sort of snooty comments about his misogyny and how appalling he writes is a big warning for King Charles, because they don't like weakness. If they see weakness, they want to smash it into pieces. If King Charles is weak, he can't help it. No father could in these circumstances, but I think that they will make his and Camilla's life and everybody else's royal life absolute nightmare. They won't accept it. They won't say, I promise not to leak it. Yeah. They won't. Harry's now a bully.
Yeah, well, they're ruthless, aren't they? But also saying we want to have a reconciliation, we want to get back. But reconciliation is nearly always in families. We've all been there, haven't we? People have fallouts. It's very normal. But actually, what it often involves is, sorry about that. You don't have to then necessarily discuss it all. You can, yeah, I'm sorry I pushed you, or I'm sorry that I didn't hug you enough as a kid. I'm sorry that should be enough for a lot of people. It clearly isn't enough for Harry and Meghan.
No, if they apologise for... Generally, that's not going to work. If they apologise to one thing, there'll be 3,000 more waiting to hear what they're saying, and everyone would be smashing them down. And also, he keeps saying, you've got to apologise to Meghan, you've got to apologise to Meghan. I know that King Charles and Queen Camilla, they really liked her at the beginning. They did everything they could to make her feel at home. Maybe it wasn't what she wanted, but I know they did that. But so what are they apologising? She should apologise to them, but that's not going to happen.
No, indeed.
So,
well, what do you make of the row over Prince Harry's book? I mean, I couldn't believe there's still another one. There was a big row over him talking about his 25 Taliban fighters that he'd killed as a helicopter gunner in Afghanistan. Again, everyone was saying that this was, and he said in an interview subsequently, that he was taken out of context. Again, it's the British media that's always at fault. I remember discussing it in quite a lot of detail, and people were saying the word boast. I don't think it was ever a boast. I think he was making it very clear. I said, I wish he'd killed 250 or 2,500 or even more. The world's a better place without Taliban fighters. But he was making it clear that, that was what happened. I put it in full context. No. But, I mean, but he was criticised not by the media. He was criticised by military veterans saying, you never talk about the kills, and here's why. Now, this is exactly why. Because this has basically played into the hands of not just the Taliban in Afghanistan, but also in Iran. The Iranian foreign minister, on their official Twitter account, accused the Duke of Sussex of showing no remorse over the killings, he says, of innocent lives, and accused Britain of allowing this war crime, basically saying the outrage over the killing of the British-Iranian dual national, the former Deputy Defence Minister in Iran, who was killed behind bars, accused of spying. Iran claimed that that we're in no position to preach because they say the British regime, whose royal family members seeing the killing of 25 innocent people as removal of chess pieces, a quote from the book, and has no regrets over the issue, and those who turn a blind eye to this war crime are in no position to preach to others on human rights. He walked right into that, didn't he?
Well, absolutely. I know nothing about the army. I've never had anyone in the army, but I do know you don't talk about numbers. It just boils up the other side. And he would have known that. I can't imagine, however unintelligent people say he is, he would have known that you don't talk about numbers. Also, the publishers editor, he should have looked at that and said, is this all right? Because it's a common knowledge. It's not a difficult thing to know. And I think he has walked into this absolutely difficult situation. But will he take responsibility for it? Will he apologise nicely? Oh, I can't imagine, because Harry doesn't apologise at all anymore. He's always right. He said about putting the numbers down, 25. He could have just missed that out.
Yeah.
All his comments about talking about being in Afghanistan and how he felt about flying his helicopter and all the people and everything is very interesting, actually. Yeah. And it's minutely written. But there's no need to have 25 as a number. That's where he went wrong.
Yeah, and that was the only real criticism that people were talking about. I think, as you say, it's fascinating to hear, and we talk to military veterans all the time about they should be able to choose whether to talk about it or not, but they walk into this. Now, look, the Iranian regime will use whatever they want, but the key thing here is Harry says he's not a working royal. He's headed off to California to make his millions with his wife. But according to, regimes like Iran, you're the King of England's son, as far as they're concerned. Yes. You're still a part of the royal family, HRH, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. So what you do and what you say is still seen by some deeply corrupt, dishonest regimes like the Iranians as representative of this country and indeed of this government as well. And that's the issue, isn't it?
Yes, that's why you have to be very, very careful about these things. You have to be on tiptoes and you have to check. But he's very arrogant now. He thinks he knows a lot. He wants to run the royal family. He said that in the book too. So Iran can say, well, look, you say you want to fix the royal family. You want to look after William's children and show them how to really be. I mean, all that. He still wants to have his cake and eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't he just...